secondly, I'm on the second year of the Marine Science Foundation at Falmouth Marine School. The project title is the call-out behaviour throughout the year of grey seals at St Clement's Island in Mousehole. So we've got two resident species of seals in the UK, the common seal and the grey seal. Britain holds 40% of the population of grey seals, and they're the most common seal in Cornwall. St Clement's Island is in Penwith by Mousehole, which is just on the south coast in Mounts Bay. And this is the island from the shore, and it's an established grey seal call-out spot. So I want to be mainly looking at the effect the sea states and the tidal ranges have on the haul-out densities of seals at the island. So whether springs, neaps and mid-range tides affect the densities that haul out of the island, and what sea state they prefer to haul out at. I also want to look at whether individual seals that display slight fidelity to the island, whether they have a preference for individual rocks on the island, and how this compares to seals that don't display slight fidelity. And this kind of show their hierarchy and their interaction with one another. This is a list of some of the references I use. There's a lot more in my handout, and I've outlined why they were useful to me. That I just gained some background knowledge and research from past papers to help me write my proposal. These are materials and resources that have either been used or are required to complete my project, and also the statistical programmes which will be needed for the analysis of the data. The main associated external body with this project is Marine Discovery in Penzance, from which the data has been collected. They are a wildlife trip, which we all know, which go up Penzance, looking for wildlife, collecting scientific data for the public on their catamaran. I was lucky enough to work with them over the summer break, and they have allowed me to use the data which has been collected from April up till now. The other group is the Cornwall Seal group, which I'll be telling them my findings, which will build on Sue's vast knowledge of the seals from around the coast. This is some more associated research. Sue actually did a project on the seals at the island, monitoring them using photo ID, so that's quite appropriate. Also, the Cornwall Seal Group have done projects slightly similar, sort of on Loo Island, Gwynedd Head, and Seal Island in St Ives. And there's also more in the handout, which I've talked about a bit. So my methodology. So boat trips to the island were the platform from which the sightings and photographs have been collected from April up to now. The frequency of the trips is dependent on the weather and the customer demand, but that is starting to peter off now. So I'm going to be doing trips myself to the island and looking at it from the coast from different angles, so I can see as far around the island as I can. So I'll have to sort of organise where I can see from the coast path, if that makes sense, to different bits around the island, just to check I can see all the seals that are there. I'll need to do a land-based observation survey, and I'll mark the position, the time and the sea state and take the photos to be sure I can identify them. Data observation and statistical analysis will need to be performed on the data collected. I'll input the readings into Excel spreadsheets and plot them onto QGIS to create density maps. And for the time being, I've chosen to use a Man-Whitney test for the difference between tidal ranges and the sea states, and this should be suitable if the data is non-parametric. If I decide to go into it a bit more with the sea states, I can sort of compare each sea state with an ANOVA test, but it's not a strong point, so I don't know. So Marine Discovery have, they have their own code of conduct. They are partners of Planet Whale and a WISE and Sea Watch accredited tour operator. It's really important the way you watch seals, as their whole body is adapted to being in the water. They have a thick layer of blubber, and their fins and flippers are webbed to help them move with agility, and their eyes are big to let lots of light in, and their whiskers are really sensitive to pick up vibrations in the water around them. But this isn't as good as on the land, so they feel really vulnerable and clumsy, and they're really sensitive to disturbance. So the way you watch them is really important, because if you spook them into the water, this could damage them, and pregnant females can miscarry their pups. So we're confident we didn't do this by understanding their behaviour and sort of following the code of conduct. There's a lot more about it in my handout, but basically, if a seal's head is up and raised and looking at you, then you're already a bit too close, and it's getting agitated and moving into the water, then you've definitely gone too far for that. So, as most of the data has already been collected, the next step is to begin statistically analysing what I've got, and also organising trips to Mousehole to look up until, I'd say, probably the end of the year, just to try and get as near as I can near to the year-round set. I hope to have a conclusion by February 2015, so I can start comparing it to other literature Obviously, in the case of illness or data becoming corrupt or bad weather, then this will have to be amended. Thank you.